Hey everyone, Andrew back for another Barista Basics video. I hope that you guys are doing well. As you can tell from today's title, we are going to be discussing Turkish coffee, also known in its native language as Türk Kahvesi. Sorry if I butchered that, I tried my best. But yes, we are going to be discussing Turkish coffee, essentially following the process by which it is made, which is the defining and sort of distinguishing I can't speak English apparently, distinguishing aspect of Turkish coffee. You know, obviously this is what makes it unique enough to warrant having its own title. But before we get into that, I did want to mention just a very interesting historical fact that I came across as I was, researching Turkish coffee earlier. And it's that Turkish coffee actually originated, the style of preparing coffee actually originally, my brain is moving too fast for my mouth. Turkish coffee originally, the style of preparing the coffee originally came from Yemen. And during, sort of the Ottoman Empire time of Turkey's history, the country sort of adopted this method of preparation for itself. So even though it is called Turkish coffee because that is how it got popularized, it originally comes from Yemen. So a little interesting fact for you there. But yes, now we can get into exactly the process by which Turkish coffee is made, and by extension, what distinguishes it from, coffee how we brew it, typically in the West. So I think to get started, well, the most necessary component, there's two necessary components really to making Turkish coffee. You need a certain type of vessel, almost like a decanter slash brewer, I guess, and it's called a sebze. Again, sorry if I butchered that. But you need the special decanter that's typically made from copper or bronze, and it has a really long handle attached to it, which helps, which allows you to brew the Turkish coffee safely, but also decant and pour it into your cup safely as well. So this piece of equipment is very important and necessary for Turkish coffee. Now, the other necessary component is the coffee itself. Now, essentially, it needs to be as fine as possible. When you grind your coffee, my shirt is a little bit sideways. It needs to be as fine as possible. You want it to be as close to powder as you can get it, basically. Even finer than, espresso ground, for example. Because what you put in to make Turkish coffee is what you get out of it. So, meaning like there's no strainer or any sort of, filtering that happens. It's you have the coffee in the water, and then the end result is what you consume. So if you have really big pieces of, coffee in your grinds, then you're going to end up consuming those in your final cup of coffee because, like I said, it doesn't get filtered out or anything. So point being, you want your coffee to be as fine, absolutely as fine as possible. So those are the two necessary components to make Turkish coffee. So the first step, now that you have these components, is you want to add your coffee into your sebze, and then you want to add cold water into it as well. And then you want to take your sebze, put it over a flame, let it boil so that everything gets nice and incorporated. You want a nice homogeneous, I guess, solution, you could call it, I guess. You don't want, obviously you want it to be homogeneous, because if it's not, then you're going to be sipping and swallowing some, pretty hard pieces of coffee. So, for some reason I feel like my brain is so scattered today. You, boil it. You want to boil it enough so that everything gets incorporated, but it also has a tendency to kind of froth over and overflow the sebze. So you definitely want to find, sort of that perfect equilibrium of incorporated enough, but without you know, having it overflow and making a mess and, you know, wasting your precious coffee. So once you achieve that, then all you have to do is just pour it into your cup and you're good to go. Also, what you can do while you are, you know, when you add the coffee originally into the sebze, you could also add your sugar. That's typically when they add it, not after the coffee's brewed, but during the brewing process. So if you'd like to sweeten it, you know, in any type of way, you would add the sugar during that initial step. And yeah, that is actually it regarding Turkish coffee. Again, I thought it was much more complicated than it actually is. And I think that's due to the fact that, you know, for videos I've seen, which is how I found out about Turkish coffee, and, you know, I first saw these videos, you know, a very long time ago, but, you know, sort of as I peruse the internet throughout my life, they sporadically come up, and they always really interest me, so I watch them. But almost every single video I've seen has incorporates sand in some way, which is interesting, but it makes sense because they utilize essentially this pool of sand as the heating vessel. So instead of a flame, you heat up the sand, and that creates, well, obviously, you know, very equal heat distribution because it's sand. But I thought Turkish coffee was much more involved, and, you know, it was much more particular. And I thought that using the sand pool to heat up the sebze was necessary. But fortunately, it is not. To make Turkish coffee, it is not a necessary component. I guess, you know, it would obviously result in perhaps a better cup of Turkish coffee because the heat distribution is even better, you know, in sand. But it is certainly not necessary. So you can certainly make Turkish coffee at home. Again, all you really need is just the sebze and some very, very, very finely ground coffee. And that's it. Hopefully at some point in the future I can obtain a sebze for myself and, you know, perhaps at some point make Turkish coffee for you guys. Well, I can show you guys. I can show you me making it. Unfortunately, I can't share that with you, the coffee itself, but at least I can share the experience and I will drink it in your honor. But yeah, so hopefully that'll happen at some point in the future. Definitely don't expect it anytime soon because I don't know how much a sebze is, but I imagine, you know, it's a pretty specialty piece of equipment, so I imagine it's pretty pricey. But hopefully at some point in the future I will obtain that and make that video for you guys. But with that said, that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you learned something interesting. Sorry that I kind of had more pauses in this video than I usually do, even though pauses aren't really a surprise for me. But yeah, I feel like my brain is just a little bit fried since I had to get up super early, earlier than usual for work this morning. So I think my brain, you know, was a little out of sorts still. So I hope you can forgive me for that. But I, again, hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you learned something interesting or at least useful. I hope that you guys are doing well. I hope that you are staying safe, sane, healthy, entertained, and motivated. If you are protesting, I hope that you are staying extra, extra, super duper safe. I'm pretty sure, pardon me, I read yesterday that 2 protesters in Wisconsin got, I know they were shot, but I'm not entirely sure if they were killed or not, you know, by this certain individual, whoever he is. But anyway, I mentioned that as to stress the fact that, you know, keep your eyes out and be even more safe and be even more precautious. Kind of related to that as well, make sure you always have an emergency contact or 2 on hand, you know, that is readily available in case something goes awry, God forbid. But yes, again, I hope that you are staying extra, extra, super duper safe in this time. I hope that, you know, we're just staying well and we're trying to hang in there. You know, we're kind of, I mean, we're not kind of, we're in a very tumultuous point, you know, sort of in American history. A bit of an understatement. But, you know, things seem bleak, but, you know, if we remain hopeful and we continue, you know, to support these movements that are trying to better the United States, then everything will work out in the end, hopefully. That's what I believe anyways. It keeps me from getting depressed. So yeah, I hope that you guys are staying well. And on that note, I will see you guys next week for another Barista Basics episode. I have no idea what I'm doing, so we'll find out next week. But I hope to see you guys then. Take care.